Good. Can you get the Zoom back on here? Okay. Mayor, we're ready.
We're ready now. All right. Good evening and welcome everyone to the special meeting of the Solvang City Council for Monday, March 7th, 2022. I call the meeting to order at 5:03. Madam Clerk, would you please take the roll?
Councilmember Clark,
I'm here.
Mayor Pro Tem Infante,
Present.
Councilmember Arona,
Here.
Councilmember Thomas,
Here.
Mayor Urick.
Here. I'll lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Hand over your heart. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right. Madam Clerk, would you please read item number 1?
Public hearing to review Solvang elections district maps. Open the public hearing to discuss and revise the draft maps and discuss election sequence, take public comment, close the public hearing.
Is there a city or a staff report on this?
Just a really brief report before we invite our consultant to have the discussion of the presentation. Just as a reminder that this process here is a transition to the city of Solvang to elections by district. We are currently almost at the end of this process. Prior to this, in August and in September, you all held 3 public meetings on this and received input from the community, as well as provided your input to the consultant on the potential district maps. That input was taken into account by the consultant, and the draft maps were created. So the draft maps proposed 4 different districts. The mayor would still be elected at large. All of the council members would be elected from the district specifically. There are 3 different versions online. Those have been posted as of February 7th and were available for public review. Here today in front of you for a public hearing, which will be followed by yet another public hearing and introduction of an ordinance to actually adopt a preferred map, which would be followed by a proposed adoption of a map on April 11th. And with that, I'd like to invite Daniel Phillips, our consultant with NDC.
Thank you.
If you could pull up the slides, please.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. Good to be back with you. I will be presenting a slideshow, and once that's up on the screen, I'll proceed.
My laptop feed? Yes, just 1 second.
Oh, that.
Did you restart your computer, right?
It's obviously that our regular night when we got things all messed up.
Thank you. Yeah, so you might remember me from last summer. I was here to give a series of presentations on this process, and that was because state law actually requires there be at least 2 public hearings held before any draft maps are presented. So we did those back in August and September of last year, and so I'm back now to lead you through the next step of the process, which is actually going over draft maps. So these were actually posted a month ago on February 7th on the city's districting website. So hopefully you've had plenty of time to review them and digest them and come with questions about them tonight. So tonight will be the first of 2 post-draft hearings, which are required by law, where we're going to present the plans, discuss them, and receive input on them, including any necessary revisions you might want to make to them in advance of the next hearing, which is going to be March 28th. So March 28th will be the last of the public hearings, and then there will be an adoption hearing also at the same meeting, March 28th. And the idea is to have a first reading of the ordinance during that adoption hearing, and then come back and do the second reading on April 11th. So that's what the schedule looks like. Next slide, please. So there are several federal and state laws that govern this process. The laws that fall under the federal heading there include that the districts have to be equal in population. And by population, we mean all people counted by the census in 2020. So that would include children and non-citizens. So they had to be equal, but they don't have to be exactly equal. There is some wiggle room that is allowed, and the reason is you have that wiggle room so that you can take into account all the other factors that you see on the screen here, including respect for the Federal Voting Rights Act. And the idea there is to not dilute the voting strength of a racial or ethnic minority group. But on the flip side, we don't want to engage in racial gerrymandering where we make race or ethnicity our main consideration. Now, it has to be a consideration in order to be in compliance with the Voting Rights Act, but it shouldn't be the predominant only factor. So that leads us to the state criteria, and that provides us a whole list of other factors that are important to this process. And you'll notice that it's a ranking 1, 2, 3, and 4, because the state recognizes that it may not always be possible to adhere to all of the state criteria, in which case you would want to prioritize the ones that are higher up in the list, like 1 or 2, if it's not possible to do all 4. So the very first of those is to have districts that are contiguous, just one piece each. Number 2 is to avoid dividing neighborhoods and communities of interest, which are socioeconomic geographic areas that should be kept together. Number 3 is to have districts that have easily identifiable boundaries, such as streets, creeks, and features that can be easily recognized by people on the ground. And lastly, to have districts that are compact in that they do not bypass one group of people to get to a more distant group of people. And lastly, at the end, you'll see there is a prohibition against favoring or discriminating against a political party. So the idea there is this is a nonpartisan process, not taking into account any of that type of data. At the far end of the screen, you'll see other traditional principles. So this includes respecting voters' choices, i.e. continuity in office, and accounting for any future population growth. So you can consider those principles so long as it is not at the expense of the federal and state criteria. Next slide, please. So that leads us to the proposed draft plans that are on the table tonight. And again, to emphasize, these are just first drafts. If there are revisions you would like to see, we have opportunity to make those and come back with revisions for the next hearing. But the first one is called the Green Plan. And under this plan, what you'll see is that there is an inter-district 3, which contains the central business district or village center, however you want to call it. And then north of that, immediately north of that, is a District 2, which kind of wraps around. And then District 1 wraps around that on the northern and eastern sides, which leaves District 4 to take in the southern part of the city. So under this plan, District 3 would be where the Latino population is concentrated. And in that district, they would constitute 55% of the citizen voting age population, or CVAP. Now, all 4 districts are contiguous under this plan, and there does not appear This plan does not appear to unnecessarily split any neighborhoods or communities of interest such as multifamily housing, senior living facilities, and mobile home parks. But if you or members of the public feel differently, that'd be good to hear. I mentioned the central business district being kept together in District 3. Although there is a question about would it actually be better represented in a single district or in multiple districts. The state law is clear that it's not really considered a community of interest unless it would be best represented in just a single district. So you may have a case where your downtown commercial area would be best represented by multiple districts. And so there is another plan that would achieve that. The district boundaries do follow major streets wherever possible, like I worry about pronunciations because I've had trouble in the past, but Viborg would be like an example of a major street that serves as a boundary between District 1 and 2 under that plan. Probably the main weakness of this plan would be that some districts may not be considered compact, especially District 1, which, like I said, wraps around at the edge. But as you recall, that would be the very last priority of the state criteria. So that is the Green Plan in a nutshell. I do show that there is a proposed election sequence and an alternative election sequence that you can consider for that plan if you are leaning in that direction. Did you have a question?
Yes. I'm confused by how you can come up with an election sequence when some of us aren't up for election until after you've got the sequence in here. In other words, if I'm in District 2, oh no, it actually does work. No, it shows it in an election on 2022. I'm not up until 2024, so how can we even allow that? You're gonna change our mandatory durations of our elections?
No, every single member of the council gets to finish their full 4-year term that they were duly elected to. So it's just a matter of when that district representative would be elected.
But no, that doesn't make sense, sorry.
So for example, for the green map or green plan, Councilmember Infante and Councilmember Arona looks like fall into District 1, which would be in 2024.
Thank you.
So the next plan that is presented to you tonight is called the Orange Plan. If you could switch to the next slide, please. Ms. Bradford? Thank you. So under that plan, it's also just a little bit over an 8% total population deviation. Anything under 10% is considered presumptively constitutional when it comes to equal population. So all the plans that are before you tonight fulfill that requirement. With District 3 now, it would have 56% Latino citizen voting age population. All 4 districts are contiguous under this plan, and it does not appear to unnecessarily split any neighborhoods or communities of interest. The one possibility would be the central business district, if it is indeed considered a community of interest. If it is not, and it would actually indeed be better represented in multiple districts, then this is the plan that would achieve that, because it's split between districts 3 and 4 with the boundary along the highway. And so you have the northern part of the village center in District 3 and the southern part in District 4. But district boundaries do follow major streets wherever possible, and all districts are reasonably compact with this plan. And that leads us finally to the last plan, which is the yellow plan. And this has a lower total population deviation of just over 6%. So it's a little better on that standard, but with District 3, again, it takes in most, if not all, of the central business district, and it would be where the Latino population is concentrated at about 54%. Now, District 4 is not contiguous as it is shown on this map, and that is because we're using census blocks as our building blocks, as you might say, but we have been known to split census blocks when it's appropriate. And in this case, we would split a census block that is in that little part that's disconnected. It's actually a park, so we know no one lives there, so we can easily adjust the boundary to make sure that there is a connection between the northern part of District 4 and the southern part of District 4 if this were indeed to be adopted. Now, there aren't any, as far as we can tell, neighborhood splits or communities of interest split unless you say otherwise. The central business district is kept together in District 3. There is an attempt to follow major districts wherever possible. When it comes to compactness, District 4 is not very compact. District 2 also might have an issue because while it is technically contiguous, there is, I don't believe there is an actual roadway link between one part of District 2 and the other. So that could be another disadvantage of going with this plan. But the advantage of this plan is that it's a lower total deviation, and the election sequence works out better with your current incumbent locations. And so there's only one proposal to have districts 2 and 3 up in 2022 and districts 1 and 4 up in 2024. So that would lead me to the final slide. Oh, sorry, second to last slide, which is to explain those election sequence options in a little bit more detail. Now, the key thing to note is there must be 2 districts up in 2022 and 2 in 2024 in order to maintain the staggered sequencing. So like I said, the yellow plan has the simplest sequencing, but if you were to go for either the green or the orange plans, you would have to make a decision as far as there's a question as far as whether districts 2 or 3 under the green plan would be up in which years, and for the orange plan it would be between district 1 and 3. So for example, for the orange plan, if you decide that district 1 should be elected in 2022, that would mean that district 3 would by default have to be up in 2024 in order to maintain the 2 and 2 sequence. Next slide, please. So now's the time to take any questions you might have and hear about which plan you might prefer or be leaning toward, and maybe some revisions you might like to see to a preferred plan. And we also have an interactive review map where each of these plans is posted that you can delve in for more detail. So thank you for your attention.
Do we have any questions right now?
No question. Is this the time that we're going to be talking about each one of them? Or we have suggestions there?
That's up to you. If you want to wait to hear the public, you can do that, or
No, we
if
can
you
do
want
that
to.
first. That'd be fine.
Okay.
We can get back to it so we can.
Yeah.
We'll take it out to public comment. I don't have any speaker slips other than just what was posted via email, so.
Looks like we have a couple of raised hands online.
Anyone else in here wishing to make any comments at all? Seeing none, we'll take it out to Zoom. Mr. Duncan, looks like you're up first.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, City Council members. This is a little bit of deja vu after experiencing the county supervisorial redistricting. with in fact the same consultant working with you guys. Of the three plans I can see right now, it looks to me like Orange is the best choice. You've got the most compact, contiguous neighborhoods. And I think that will be because of that clarity, people will have a better idea of who represents them, and people will have a better idea of the issues their neighborhood feel are important. So at this point in time, that's what I would suggest you endorse. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Benedict?
Hi, this is Sheila Benedict. Going by what Mr. Duncan said, that puts me in section 2, but I have a question. You've got proposed election sequence after 2024, say 2026. Does that mean everybody would be elected at that point? That this is just sequencing the districts in? And what happens in 2022 if somebody was elected to run till 2024, but yet the district that's picked for him or her has to be made available in 2022? And before you answer that, I have to say, I don't know who at the state or the feds or whoever came up with taking a 6,000 person city and making them do all this. I think this is one of the silliest things I've ever heard in my life. I'll take your answer now.
Agree. Yeah, I think most of us probably feel like that up there, but if I may take a stab at answering, I think anything in 2022, that would be a 4-year election term, so that would be up in 2026. Any of the ones that are in 2024 would be a 4-year cycle, and that would be coming up in 2028. So 2026 is just going to be the 2 that were filled in 2022. Does that seem right?
Yes, that is correct. And there will be a 2-year transition period where there are the council members who were elected in 2020 will continue to be serving as at-large representatives, and then the 2 others who are elected in 2022 will be district representatives. And then once we get to 2024, all members of the city council besides the mayor will be district representatives. Now, if there is a situation where there is a district representative that is elected in 2022 and an at-large member is living in that district, so someone who was elected in 2020, then that person will have the ability to continue serving as an at-large representative while there is a district representative as well. So in that case, there will be 2 people living in that district who will be on the city council, but it will only be during that transition period. Does that help explain things?
That's all right. We can change however we want to have the election cycle up though, correct?
Yes, that's correct. Everything you see posted on the maps is just a proposal, and it's ultimately up to you as far as what you think would be the best election sequence. We just have to do that because the state law requires it.
So a minimum of 2 this year.
Yes, yeah, so there must be 2 up in 2022, and then the other districts go up in 2024.
Thank you. Any other questions? We have 1 left, Ms. Infante.
Hi, thank you for letting me speak. I just have an issue with the orange map that I wanted to point out. I won't make an opinion about any of the maps, but the orange map boundary is not drawn on Viborg. It's actually drawn on the north side of Viborg through the middle of several streets in that neighborhood. And I don't think that was, I hope that wasn't intentional, but if it is, it needs to be revised.
Does that make sense to you? Viborg is actually below the line
Yes.
that's drawn for the map.
No street in the top end of that
Yes,
segment.
yes, I'm aware, and that is actually a school attendance area boundary that we used in that situation, between Solvang Elementary School and Ballard School, so. And that was because the population just doesn't work out for us to take it down to Viborg, so that was the next best option in that situation.
But how about taking, if you're looking at options at the whole map, if you took Viborg, the blue area, and actually where you have Friedrichsborg Canyon going straight up, if you took that and put that red area there and make that part of District 2, and then move District 1 down to pick up some more of the area around Aarhus and Fifth Street, and then move more of District 3 into the actual city area. It just seems to me that if you could just tweak that a little bit, it might work a little better. And I'm not running, so I have no interest in where these lines are. But it just makes sense to me that you're taking that whole area, that neighborhood, and it may be a school district issue, but that's a pretty, I don't live in that neighborhood, but it's a pretty tight and cohesive neighborhood that I would think would make sense to keep that together and then move one around to pick up some of the, like I said, by Aarhus and Fifth Street and so forth, and then move the rest into the city. Is that something you could look at?
Yeah, we can certainly look at it, but I can't promise it will work out so that it's population balanced.
No, but you could.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, if I could just ask, I really would like to be in the same district as my next door neighbor. So I really hope that you will reconsider separating the population of Sunrise Village. Thank you.
Thank you. And then, Ms. Benedict, did we answer your questions that you had? I'm sorry, I didn't know if you had any further questions related to that. All right. Moving on then, Ms. Spot.
Yes, we just want to be on record, my husband and I, that we favor what Lansing had said about, we favor the orange plan as keeping our neighborhood together with like-minded people, not necessarily like-minded, but the people in the same area and the same neighborhoods. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see any other hands raised. Is there anyone on the phone that wishes to speak? Seeing none, we'll bring it back. Is there anyone final in the in-house before we move on? Did we discuss it before we close the public comment, or is that?
You would close the public comment
I'll
on to discussion.
close the public hearing portion of it right now in the comments and bring it back to council for any comments.
It appears to me that everybody that has mentioned anything different from what's been proposed it's because it's splitting their neighborhoods, and that's understandable. I don't know a good resolution to that, because as Councilmember Thomas had said, if we adjust this and adjust that and adjust, we'd have to look at all the numbers and see if it works in within 10% and all of the.
It's like whack-a-mole.
It is a little bit.
We got things to do that.
Yeah, I couldn't get the map to do what I was thinking, but
We could just move the streets.
I think that's the better idea.
Excellent.
as long as they're getting paid, Brandon, right?
That's my only comment. We're not gonna make everybody happy.
No. My only comment is that in a town of 6,000 people, I think it's a shame that you, if you look at my district, if I was to run, that I've always tried to be concerned about what's best for the most residents on everything we vote on, and then that completely goes out the window, because it's all about what's the best for your 1,500 people, and you don't care what happens in Skid Mesa or what happens in Creekside, because you represent 1,500 people and 520 registered voters only. I just think it's sad that we have to go through this, but it is what it is.
Do we want to offer this suggestions now for you to look at? Or do you want to have that down with what Councilmember Thomas has?
Yeah, so if you're leaning toward one particular plan, it would be helpful to know that in case you want to see revisions to that particular plan, because those will, the revised plan would need to be posted 7 days in advance of the next public hearing. So, for example, if you wanted to see, like Councilmember Thomas was suggesting, some sort of revision to the Orange Plan, it would be helpful to know exactly what revisions you're contemplating in order for that to be posted in time. But if someone else is leaning more toward the green plan or the yellow plan, and they want to see revisions, we would need to know that as well.
Based on the fact that the next meeting is March 28th, and you need 7 days in advance of that? Is that what you're telling me?
Yes, the plans need to be posted 7 days in advance, at least.
You got 20 days to make any changes.
You want to do a straw poll?
I'd be for what Councilmember Thomas was suggesting, with 5th Street as the boundary for 3 on the east, and giving Aarhus everything from 5th over, which is the front part of Nyborg and some of those other spots, to District 1. But I'd like to see District 3 encompass the entire TRC somewhat, so going all the way over to Oak. Because it feels like those people, with everyone in between Oak, right out here, take this all the way over to Alisal, and then up to Mission, like you see it there. And that's kind of what our TRC really is, which also has a lot more of our vacation rentals and hotels all the way over to Alisal. I don't know if that works out population-wise though, but.
Just to be clear, does TRC mean tourist-related commercial?
Residential, tourist residential.
Okay.
So it's essentially from Alisal to 5th,
Yeah.
Oak, and then up on the north side.
Yeah. So the central business district.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
I'm just gonna say that I would also be concerned that by splitting District 3 by Copenhagen, is that it might be harder to find candidates that wanna run. I think it might be easier if it encompasses both sides of Copenhagen Drive. I'm sorry, Mission Drive.
Doesn't Green do that?
Orange divides it in Mission Drive, but I think
But Green puts it all together.
Green puts it, that's what I like about the
Yeah.
green plan. I mean, I like the orange plan, but I like the fact that green encompasses more on both sides of
District 1 is
Mission
a
Drive.
piece of work though, on the green plan.
One wraps around like a horseshoe.
That's solving rural.
Yeah.
I like Green.
Yeah, as far as districts go, I'm kind of more in favor, because I think on the north side, the residents up in District 2 have different needs than everything on this side. I mean, there is somewhat of a dividing line between what, especially when it comes to circulation and traffic. But I know that when you go back to the other plan, a lot of the issues that, say, Skip Mesa has, Nyborg Estates are experiencing now too, with the traffic part going, instead of going up Skip, they're going to Nycobing and roundabout that way. So those parts of the issues are similar as far as traffic issues and circulation issues. As far as the housing, for the most part, those are probably some of the newer developments that, obviously Skip Mesa is our newest one, but be tough to get Village Collection into that, but, it'd be nice to be able to keep that, but, yeah.
But they're similar in in homes and.
In homes and
I can
things.
see that, why it's
Yeah.
put together like that.
Right.
People have the same issues in Skip Mesa they would in Village Collection as well.
Yep.
Be like-minded.
So are we leaning towards anything?
I say green.
No. No, if I had to pick a plant, I'd pick orange as it is.
Yeah.
I just don't see green, people all the way from Third Street, all the way around. I just don't like the horseshoe aspect.
I'm okay with that too. I think green or orange. Definitely not yellow.
But I'd still like to see that orange tweaked a little bit.
Yeah, we can, so I've heard a suggested revision by you, Councilmember Thomas, and then a slightly different suggested revision of orange from you, Mayor.
I think it might essentially be the same, but
Okay.
just, because I think you wanted to take District 1, have the,
Cut it off Freeport
yeah, right at
Canyon.
Fifth Street, correct?
Pardon me?
Or right at Fifth Street?
Oh, bringing down, I was just trying to figure if you took the top portion on Orange Plan to the
Yeah.
Took Friedensburg.
east of Freeport Canyon, and you take that number, you're gonna have to put it down somewhere else, and I thought taking and moving making one, take in the area of Fifth Street, or who's and some of that, and then moving
Right,
that area back into the city, making it probably a little more centric in the city,
yeah.
and then leaving 4 pretty much alone would be my suggestion if it could be done. But barring that, I would still pick orange.
So what I could do is come back at the next hearing with that orange revision and show it to you, regardless of whether it's population balance or not. I would put in clear red letters if it's not, and then you can see for yourself what the change is and why it may not be balanced. What's challenging is with a small city like this, if you just switch one census block from one district to another, it can throw things off balance, especially since there's some census blocks that are quite large and take in like most of Skip Mesa, and there's another census block that takes in all of that hillside area. I don't know the exact name for it offhand, but it's where you have the windy road that goes up the hill. That's just one whole census
Yeah,
block.
that's called Windy Road.
Yeah. So
Howard Street.
yeah, I'll do my best, but it may not be feasible.
Okay.
We can still go onto the site, the map online, and put in suggestions on this. One of the things I'm a little bit confused by on that, you can set up an orange, for instance, or a green, and then modify it? Or do you have to do everything from scratch to put in a suggestion?
Yeah, so on the district website, there is a place where you can, there's a contact page where you can put a submission and say, I would like to see such and such. So if you want to go there, you can put in an idea for either a change to one of the existing plans or to request for a totally different plan.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Do we need anything else from, I think that's probably it.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you very much, appreciate the effort,
You're welcome.
and we'll see you back in March.
Yes.
Right. With that, we can adjourn the meeting for 5:41.
We'll come back to the joint session at 6 o'clock for council and the planning commission.
Sounds good.